Welcome to Foundations of Coaching series, and here is lesson 2. In this brief lesson, I invite you to think about this question. How is coaching different from other ways of communicating at work? So, do you coach someone at work? Who do you coach? Some of you may have coaching as a formal job duty, coaching your staff, colleagues, or even work as an internal coach, while some of you may coach your clients, customers, and teams. Since the 1980s, coaching somehow found its way in the organizational literature and now shows up in many of job descriptions, probably including yours. But it gets confusing as you do many other things other than just coaching when you're communicating. So what else do you do? As a supervisor, you may supervise. As a trainer, you may train. As a consultant, you may consult, and the list goes on. So coaching, with many definitions without clear descriptions, it somehow sits in between many other roles that you play. How is coaching then different from all the other ways of communicating? What do they have in common? Can you coach someone while training? Can you coach somebody while supervising, managing, or giving feedback? What we're talking about here is more of an applied coaching approach. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you look at your dialogues with other people, there are times when you need to tell, teach, advise. And there are other times when you listen with genuine curiosity about where the other person will lead you in your conversation. Generally speaking, coaching approaches are understood as more non-directive than other ways of communicating. Well, generally speaking, yes, when you know the outcome, then it's very likely directive. And when you don't know the outcome, maybe it's non-directive. And there are many different ways of looking at it. Well, does it sound too theoretical? Let me give you an example. When you work with a student or a new employee, let's say, there are clear learning objectives for them to learn. If you were to take the directive approach, you will tell them what they need to know, instruct them to learn, and give feedback and advice along the way. You might think it may be more difficult to take that non-directive perspective in this relationship because you do know more about the subject matter. But hold on, there are some things that you do not know. What are you curious about as you sit down with this person? Here's how you can use a coaching approach even in the context of training. Some of you may naturally ask them, so what do you already know about this, instead of jumping right in to teach them? How about this question, so how would you like to learn? Well, these are simple questions that we actually do not know the answer for. Therefore, it's non-directive. We will have a lot more examples of applied coaching in class come with questions. So remember this slide. We talked about coaching as confluence last time. But how does it work? Coaching creates a platform for both coach and coachee so that they can collaborate to build something in their shared space. So what are you building and what are you building on? Well, here's what happens. Your client or coachee or staff, but for now let's call them client. Your client will give you many building blocks in their conversation that you can respond to. Some of them are useful blocks and some others are not so useful. So how do we know which blocks are the useful ones? According to the coaching research, there seem to be 3 key building blocks that you can listen for and build on in your conversations. When your client is talking about what they want, we call them desired outcomes, or when they talk about what is important, what positive differences they want to see in their life, or what is already working well in their life, that is your building block. Your role as a coach in that conversation is to provide a frame for them to be more likely to respond in these 3 areas. For example, one of our initial questions asks, what are your best hopes? Or what will be a useful direction for you to be moving towards after our conversation? These questions will support the client to provide an answer within the frame of what they want. Also, when you ask about what positive difference will you notice, then they get to articulate what is important to them. And of course, we focus on progress and existing strengths by asking, hey, what's already working well in your life? What do you already know about this subject? You will do a lot of more practice in class with real-time feedback to learn how to respond in a coaching conversation, to pay attention to these 3 key building blocks. So hey, isn't it simple? Well, yeah, it is simple, but it's not easy. So you have completed lesson 2, and don't worry if you didn't get all of it. That's why we are going to meet in class. So bring your questions. Come prepared to learn how to coach. See you soon.